Welcome back to the International Classroom Podcast. As we're wrapping up Season 2, we're going to hit rewind to revisit 10 of the most impactful, insightful, and thought-provoking discussions that we've had throughout this season. So join us as we dive back into these episodes and relive some of the magic from the past season.
We pulled the teacher, head of tech for the primary, also up into this space and said, okay, your main role is to look at where science, math, and language are kind of where they're going in each of the grade levels, and find where is the kind of that sweet spot that we could connect. So we got 6 weeks. What kind of project could we do that is allowing them to really get hands-on, that unpack the art scope and sequence, but then has a science element, or then has a math element, or maybe has a language element?
We start with a problem. We give them a little bit of skill where they need it. We give them the materials and things which are really rudimentary, as low level, as low cost as possible, like borderline rubbish, but allow their creativity to totally flourish. And that's exactly what we do with all of our sessions. We start with a problem. We give them rubbish but in pretty boxes. And then we then let them go at it, right? Rather than saying prescriptively, we're all going to make the same thing, or we're going to do like block bots, or we're going to drill holes through something, or we're going to line bend the same mobile phone holder. Here's the instructions. Don't use your brain. Don't think. Everything we do is actually about mindset. It's entirely about mindset. It's just done through the lens of DT.
Well, I would say I don't have it nailed down, but I would have a thick skin in the sense that I don't go to things with expectations. You know, like I'm looking for opportunities that will benefit the Innovation Hub, that will benefit my professional development as an educator. And I know if I did link up, whether it was Maritime Heritage Festival, the Al Hosn Festival here in Abu Dhabi, those things are going to bring me closer to the culture. And then those things are going to benefit my students here at Raha.
Everything we do is about giving permission to fail. And that's to both staff and to students. Is what we do at the club is we create this very safe environment like you do in school. And it's somewhere where people feel free to explore and that it's okay to get things wrong. And that's the first thing we get across to staff is, one, they need to feel that environment, because again, if you look online in the newspapers and everything else, it feels everything is just so high stakes all the time. And something we're doing particularly with international schools, with private schools, we're doing that with parents as well. And we're getting that mindset across that it's okay to fail as long as you're resilient to succeed, because that's just part of the process. So again, we use DT as a vehicle for that, particularly with design thinking, because there's no such thing as failure in that design process. It's called iteration.
So you'll notice with this episode that I've taken 2 of the episodes from Season 2, and I took Mark Ryan's and I took the Inventor Club episodes because they have a lot of commonalities, a lot of themes between them, and trying to do, although they're in sort of different parts of the world and they're doing slightly different things, they're also doing very, very similar things with similar messages that they're trying to put across. And the first thing that I took from it and really tried to buy in then and use in my own teaching this year is about hands-on practical learning. Now, for me, it's kind of very easy then as a scientist to kind of go, well, we want hands-on practical learning. But I think it goes a bit deeper than that in terms of trying to move beyond solely just memorizing facts. And what we're looking to do is connect and apply knowledge to solve real-world problems. And that's something, again, from a science perspective, I find quite easy to then apply it to, because, and in some ways it's easy, should I say, because people go, oh, you can just talk about climate change, but actually there's a whole host of other issues and real-world problems that we can connect it to. So from that side, it's the concepts and building critical thinking skills, building collaboration, being reflective. So the impact of that is vast, as it were. And then because of this, the impact then on students is that they become more confident with their own knowledge. They allow themselves to then take risks and try things. So those side of things about practical learning is much more than just doing a practical. I think it's then all the other things that then come with that. And as you go through this, and I've spoken about this a few times, I think across LinkedIn recently, and I spoke about it even at Guess in November, about interdisciplinary. So trying to break down silos and connect numerous subject lessons. And even in the previous episode, when I rewound to with Pat, he talks about one of the things and key features or future things he would want then for education is to actually break down the number and sheer volume and framework of things that students have to learn. And I think interdisciplinary learning and the approach to that would allow those types of things to happen. And it gives students a more holistic view. And more importantly, the understanding that learning is not confined to silos. So it's not just I'm learning maths, science, English languages, that they do become interdisciplinary, and students can see then how their learning across all these different disciplines can have a positive impact on one another. I think it goes without saying then, in terms of creativity and innovation, you're asking students, as the pun goes, the saying goes, but to think outside of the box, and they have the freedom to experiment. And because of that, both of them had the same message in their episodes. It was about fostering a culture of innovation. And obviously there's numerous different types of innovation, but the other message that came across with this was about developing resilience within students and that growth mindset. So because it's an ever-changing world, some of these episodes were done, where with AI was prominent, and when it was kind of just, developing more so and more so. So adaptability and flexibility is going to be a key thing with this. And really the last thing that stood out to me and why it was last when I put it into the video was to do with the fear of failure. And we see this a lot, especially I think with A-level students, GCSE students, so much rests and rides on their results, on the grades. Can I get into sixth form to do the subjects I want? Can I get to university to do the course that I want? And the idea of approaching learning in this way, I think, is a really interesting take. And I think moving forward for the future, with the numerous different discussions that are taking place already about assessment, we're going to see those things continue. And I think in years to come, we're going to see potentially a shift with exam boards and how they approach things. For some subjects, maybe not all. But I think the key thing for the success of students is the psychological safety. They are safe to explore, safe to make mistakes, and they can learn from those mistakes. It's encompassing metacognition without using a fancy word of metacognition, of learning how we learn. And what's key for this is they both came away and said, we want students to love learning. They want to cultivate this love of learning. And I think how they're approaching it and the types of things that both Mark and the guys at the Inventor Club are doing, is phenomenal in trying to develop those things across all students with all age groups without having to have fancy setups. As Ben said, I think it was to do with, basically rubbish in shiny packaging. And that for me is a real important thing about lifelong learning. And I think those two episodes combined, thinking about it and rewind to think about it, have so much fruit for moving forward with where education's going to be, where assessment's going to be, and how we approach learning and the types of activities we get students to do. Two wonderful episodes I highly recommend you go back and listen to and follow across social media, because both three of them put out some wonderful information about what they're doing and how they're doing it, and are really responsive to people with questions. So go back and listen to those guys, and hope you can get inspired and learn from them moving forward for your academic practice into the next year. But for now, hope you enjoyed that rewind. Stay safe, and I will see you tomorrow for the next one.